All right. What is up, everybody? Welcome back to another video. I'm joined by Professor Doctor Superhero Ted Barrow.
Hi everyone. How's it going?
I'm sure they're doing all really well.
How are you?
Me, I'm pretty good. Can't complain. I'm gonna close my door so my toilet isn't what everyone's staring at.
Okay, cool. Stop staring at his toilet, everyone.
So this is a part two. Yes.
Yes, as far as I understand it, this is based on the comments of on the last video. This is like a part two where we've crowdsourced the artist that people want us
Yeah.
to talk about. And do you mind if I like just say a couple words before we start?
Yeah, you have
Yeah,
some
yeah.
revenge, some
No,
unfinished
it's
business.
no revenge.
Are you
But
sure?
it's just yeah, it's just like to clarify a couple things. Because it
That
did get a little
sounds like revenge to
yeah, it
me.
sounds like I'm like gearing up. Right. No, it did get a little bit dramatic, and I feel like I may have hurt, I got my own feelings hurt, and I may have hurt people's feelings by the things that I said in the last video. Especially if I kind of offered some half-cocked opinion or take on a selected work of art from an artist that whose work and career is bigger and better and of a deeper breadth than what we had given them credit for. So I just want to like say that one, I'm just going off rip. I'm not speaking as an expert. I spent a lot of time thinking about and talking about art, but I'm definitely not spending this time thinking and talking about the art that these skaters who we're going to be looking at make. I'm not an authority figure, even though I have a PhD. I'm just old. I really objected to this person calling me a yuppie because I get that like being into art and having a PhD in art history is maybe something that a yuppie might have, but it's not like I'm like some stockbroker who uses their expendable income to like study art to show how much smarter I am than everyone else. Like I'm a person who worked at a store for the last 3 years so that they could finish their PhD. And now that I have my PhD, which is not on like contemporary art, I'm $60,000 in debt. Like I'm into art because it's like the thing that's almost exciting to me as skateboarding, and that's about it. And so like skateboarding, these are just subjective opinions based on what we're talking about today. These aren't like the people that we're talking about really don't have much of a place in the art world. Some of them do, but that's kind of what's great about them is that they're just approaching art making in large part like the way they approach skateboarding, which I think is cool. So I'm approaching this not as an expert in 19th century watercolors that I am, but as just like a fellow skater who likes to see what skaters do when they're not skating.
Yeah.
Okay.
Uh yeah, motherfucker. Well said. Yeah, there's even some artists I didn't even put on here because I was like, dude, what? Like Frankie Villani does doodles and stuff, and that was somebody that I feel like people would want us to talk about, but I was also like, dude, there's like I don't know, this is almost like rude.
I mean, it's like the thing is, and this goes all the way to the top of like the artists who are best known as in the skate world and who also like have some sort of like art practice. Like none of these people are make a blip in the like quote unquote art world, you
Yeah.
know? Like you know, like in the people that do collect their art, like if these people make photo books or they sell paintings, like it's often people who just are fans of them for their skateboarding.
Yeah,
And,
right.
and you know, it's kind of like how Ringo Starr makes like selfie art and people buy it because they love the Beatles.
Yeah,
Yeah.
there's a lot. I was gonna get into some of that stuff, especially when we go to Grayson Fletcher Town. But
Yeah.
yeah, a
Good
lot of
show.
these guys they get like these events sponsored or these I call it a gallery or people showing their work inside of a house or like their companies will sponsor these events, but it's like goddamn, if you didn't have a fat bone dolly,
Yeah.
we would not be here under these circumstances.
And also like and I'm not like dissing anyone for doing that. Like I think that's fine. You know, like whatever
I am.
like
Fuck you, Grayson Fletcher.
yeah,
And
should
learn
we
a new trick, motherfucker.
well, I mean it's I'm not like yeah, we can we can
I'm
go
just
ahead and
kidding.
look at Grayson Fletcher if you'd like.
We will.
I just want to kind of clarify that because yeah, I'm obviously going to say things that aren't super well informed because I'm reacting pretty much with no preparation to most of this stuff. So
Also, it's worth saying, I mean, this is classic fucking internet person shit, but like I went back and I looked at some of the comments. People were like, "This video's awesome." Like almost all of them were. A couple of them were like, you guys kind of fucked this, but like the majority of the comments were positive. But of course, I do this too. Every single thing, like I have this mouse scroller here, and I can click. I can scroll up and down a page, or I can click a button that turns off the clicking, so you just do that, and then it scrolls like a wheel, so you can scroll really fast. That's me looking for negative comments on my YouTube video. I'm just like
Russian Revolver.
Yeah, flooding through people that are like, dude, this is your best video. You rock. I love you. Post more. I'm just like, shut the fuck up. Where's that person telling me to die? Like, I need to find him.
We're sort of like negative. Our brains are designed to recognize trauma and crisis and not like positive reaffirmation or whatever.
Yeah, I heard recently on a podcast actually that's like a survival instinct. It's like everyone's like just sitting by the campfire having a good time, and then there's one guy that's like, did you hear that noise? And everyone's like, shut the fuck up, there's no noise, man. And then their T-Rex comes prancing through and everyone fucking dies.
Exactly. So that's to say, like, it's fine if anyone doesn't like this video or doesn't respond, like doesn't agree with like what we say, but it's just like it's art. The whole point is that there is no like best or worst about any of this. It's just like
basically you can't leave any negative comments or else.
I mean, I want to bring this up, but I'm not like getting paid for this. I'm just doing this because it's fun and I like Joa.
Yeah.
Like the rest of you.
How much, since Ted is in debt for college, how much should we pay him for this video? Leave a comment.
Leave a comment.
Let us know how much Ted should get paid for this video. I should say also, Ted made this slideshow, so good job, Ted. And I will exit out of the slideshow when I want to show additional stuff that's not showed in the slideshow. Cool. Because there's a couple things that either you excluded deliberately, maybe at certain times. Like there's this one Artosari photo that I really wanted to see. But anyway,
toss that in like in the post production or whatever.
Okay, all right. Grayson Fletcher, baby.
Yeah. Generally, this is, I hate to say it, but this is an example of like what's bad about like someone being well known for one thing and then just being like, well, I guess I could seamlessly do this other thing. But again, like this is at like the Juice magazine headquarters on Venice Beach. So he's amongst friends. He's in a comfortable space. He doesn't really have to challenge himself. But to me, this looks like graffiti with no style or like a bad imitation of someone who wasn't very good at copying Basquiat in the first place.
It looks like there's this TV show. I don't remember what it was, but there was like a prodigy 9-year-old artist in the TV show, and this is like what their art looked like when they would, not even that this was a real person, like this was a scripted fictional show, and be like, oh, what have you been working on next? And he like produces one of these things, like, this is it, mommy. But I'm like from the West Coast, like I grew up near like Newport Beach and shit, so like there will be these crops of children that'll be like, I'm into art. And then like there will just be a ton of money around it, and someone's parent does something who like works for Volcom or fucking Ruka or some other company. And there's this like wave after wave, years of like kids producing like beach art, and they get these opportunities because they're well connected. It's like Nepo baby art show shit. This is exactly what I like, the vibe I'm getting with this.
It's sort of, I want to say something positive. So I actually do kind of like the one on the right with the radioactive pink guy with, for some reason, like a 6-pack, which is weird. And the little devil on his shoulder. And I think that the way that he did like the twinkling city behind him was kind of cool with the lights in the water. Like that's okay, but a lot of the stuff sort of just looks like things that a bored 5th grader would do in the margins of their notes when they're supposed to be like taking notes. But I don't even think Grayson Fletcher went to 5th grade.
He didn't make it to 5th grade. He's like, I have to fucking practice my Ollie, mom. Actually, it sounds like I'm just going to be saying this to agree with you for the sake of it, but actually didn't hate this one. Also, this one's just stupid, and I like that it's stupid, which is that this is like a radioactive man living in the ocean, because the theme of this show is post-apocalyptic. And I think if you're not trying to make some larger message with your art, and you want to draw or paint a radioactive guy with a six pack and like, you know, a little friend on his shoulder in the ocean, that's fine. That's totally fine. However, having said that, when you go to like, this is also part of the same thing, which leave blood, skate fast, slam hard. It's like, oh god, dude, this shit's actually just bad. There's no redeeming qualities to this one whatsoever.
In the 80s, there were these like crappy generic companies like Nash, or what Veriflex became, that like would do bad imitation graphics of like Sims, Vision, Powell, and Santa Cruz. You know, they would have all the skulls and they'd have all the like weird sloppy irrelevance. They just didn't do it really well. And this is kind of like how his art feels.
This isn't, I don't know. This looks like a deranged person, you know, got fucking set off on like the wall outside of 7-Eleven.
Yeah, and that's partly the thing, is like a lot of skaters, or a lot of people who don't really have experience making art, sort of think that it's like this like subconscious inner vision, and that you just have to like, you know, and it's not that. It can be that, but you have to have a lot of practice before you can tap into that, I think.
Yeah, I feel like it's like they have this talent in one area, or it's like he's this savant where he can just air out of a pool and not grab his board. It's incredible. And then like, you know, that's expected to be a transferable skill into like, you know, painting or something, where it's like, he's just fucking special, man. What can you say? He's just fucking special. He does it all. He's
fucking surfing royalty. So like, let the prince.
Is he a surfing royalty guy? Is he the
I think best? Like the Fletcher family like are like huge like surfers. Like,
okay, that makes sense.
Yeah, so I mean, you know, again, like we're not seeing this at a museum or like David Zwirner or something like that.
I'll probably bleep this part out, but I heard that he Armanto in a porta potty.
That rules. We're doing a
we're adding on to it, baby.
Oh fuck. Okay.
Yeah, that's right.
Right.
You're gonna have to make some big decisions.
Okay. Well, Grayson definitely goes on to the D tier.
Oh well. Goodbye.
Yeah.
Damn, we put Marby in D.
I didn't put Marby in D. Marby is solid B. Put her back up there.
I don't know how she got.
I think you did that. You capitulated to your comments, dude. I put Marby in A or S.
I don't remember doing that. I don't remember. You know, I thinking about those Marby comments, because people are like, this is just like, you know, the fucking corporate Memphis. You know, one could argue that Marby is utilizing that style ironically and subverting your expectations. Well,
and also, there's good ways to do something bad. You know, like everything has been done before. Someone can do something that a lot of people do shittily well, and I think that she does things that normally I would outright dismiss well. Now, is my opinion partially informed by the fact that I think she's a rad person and she's fucking cool? Yes. But like I said, it's subjective. This isn't science.
I'd also say that to me, it looks like she's been doing that for a long time. So, I mean, I don't know the timeline, but it's always unfortunate when somebody's good at something in a style and then it gets like hijacked and, you know, turned into the interior of a Starbucks or something. It's like, yeah, you should probably change your style, but it should also be acknowledged that that's like an unfortunate fate for somebody.
Robert Indiana designed the Love trademark as a Christmas card for MoMA. He had no idea that it was going to blow up the way that it did 3 years later, and then that he got alienated by that image later. So it's like, sorry, deep cut there, but you know what I'm saying? Like, yeah, artists can't control like when the rest of the world catches up to them or whatever. Like, I still think she does it well, and I much prefer seeing her work. Back to the deck. All right, next, Kyler Garrison.
Yeah. Right.
Obviously much more advanced in concept and technique than Grayson Fletcher. Yeah. But it's weird that Kyler Garrison and Grayson Fletcher's names they are of a certain generation where parents name their children things like
sound like forces of the dark arts.
Yes, I know. And I immediately dismissed Kyler because of his name, but then I took one glance at his art, to say nothing of his skating, and I was like, oh shit.
I mean, it's Kyle and Tyler
Yeah.
combined, you know, and
Right.
those are two of. I remember on feedback you had a rule like no
Yeah. No, no,
Tanners.
no Tanners, no Jadens, no Haydens, no Aidens,
Yeah,
anything like that.
because it's
I've
almost always the same thing.
Yeah, little helmeted kid listening to trap music. But those kids grow up and sometimes they become amazing artists. And I really like Kyler's work. I think the airbrush and largely muted colors like evoke nostalgia and memory. I think there's a nice variety of textures and forms. I think like in the one on the right, like the strange kind of like juxtaposition of that like super sharp, rusty iron fence blocking off like what looks to me like a bird bath or some kind of sculpture and this blurry thing. I think it's super good. Um, so like, yeah, this is great. Really good technique. And obviously Kyler knows what the fuck he's doing compared to
I think he's I don't think he's any older than like 22 either. Like he's from the clips I've seen of him skating, he looks really young. And this is the other his like art review here or whatever, but his clips are fucked. He's like
yeah, he's super
he's
good.
really really good, like properly like special talent. Like what I had said about Grayson Fletcher is just like transferable skill. Like, this guy's just special. He's just got it, dude. It's the amount of people that are this good at two things is
rare.
Nobody is fucking like is like that. So
My only critique would be that thematically, and I'm getting this from some of the like essays that have been written about his work and press releases and stuff, like he is fully gotten, if his work is about memory and sort of faith and belief and home and our disconnection from our past, he has figured out exactly how to represent that. I think like the airbrush, the sort of fuzzy lines, the sort of strange dramatic lighting, and the weird combination of like childhood things versus like these strange distant landscapes that could be anywhere, like that's really cool.
mm-hmm.
He's right at this point, and this is like a thing that I notice with a lot of skate artists, like if he's 22 years old or around then, he's as good as he's ever going to be in skateboarding. And a lot of skaters who make art learn how to make art. They approach it in the same way that they approach skateboarding, which is kind of like obsessively and kind of like once you land a kickflip, you try a kickflip down 3 stairs, then you try it down a gap, then you try it down, then you try it into grinds, then you just explore what you can do with a kickflip by pushing it further and further and further. Now in art, like you kind of need like more ideas than simply here's what I'm doing with the kickflip. And I'm seeing a lot of, I could be wrong because I've never seen any of these works in person, but it sort of seems like he's showing everything he can do with this type of technique in this medium. And he's super young, so like that's cool. But like I'm curious as to where this will go later on, because I think he's like, he will develop.
Yeah, so I have my own kind of like thoughts about his work, which is that I think execution wise and the concepts for a lot of these, he's like amazing. I've seen work that is similar to this before, but I don't think I've seen anyone do it as well as Kyler does it. Just like whatever his natural instincts, like the way that he can pair images together, he's very very skilled at that. Like this sculpture vase thing, and then this electrical grid or whatever that's behind it. When I look at this, I see like super, like Gen Z art, which is like, this is a new kind of style from what I understand, like this airbrushing thing. I think I know a couple people on the East Coast that do this sort of thing. There's a digital workflow that is being like extrapolated onto something that is not digital. So like if you use Photoshop or something and you stack these images on top of each other, you just take like PNGs, cutouts or whatever, and then you stack them. It's like there's not much blending to what this guy does. So he'll stick like, what looks like a different photo almost of a fence, and then he'll put it on a background of what looks like a different photo. And then you just like, say you look up butterflies and then you stack those on top. Like I think it's supposed to resemble something that you would make on the computer, if that makes sense.
Yeah, that totally makes sense. I was going to say, like, I would kind of imagine that he is looking at artists like Gerhard Richter and maybe Dan Cullen. And as far as airbrushing goes, like Mario Ayala is another artist who also has a background in skating, who kind of comes out of it from like a Southern Californian, like kind of East LA Chicano thing, but like something kind of similar where texture and layering is are sort of like what seems the medium. But I also, I mean, what you say about like digital like kind of stacking in Photoshop is really interesting, and I hadn't thought about it like that because I am old.
Yeah, I mean, and there's also more obvious stuff like, just incorporating memes and shit into it. And then there's other stuff too that is maybe like kind of a stretch, but like, there's a lot of viral videos of like Russian car crashes and shit. It just is like, you can see like the subconscious, I think, of a lot of people's shared experiences online really leaking. I mean, there's an anime
Yeah,
lady right here. I do like for the nostalgia factor or whatever, I like that so much of it is like kind of like blurry or out of focus. It almost looks like you're seeing these through like a pane of glass that has, some fog
yeah,
on it or something
or
like
like
that.
wax paper almost. Yeah, I think it's super good. I mean, again, like I want to see that one's
Yeah, it
amazing.
is. It is interesting though because, like you said, what I don't know what you do, what the next step is.
Yeah,
Um,
it's like he seems to have like fully formed into this right now because I was looking at earlier work and it kind of looks like he's been doing this for a little bit. I'm putting him up by Ed, and I'm gonna say like
wow.
yeah, hell yeah. Gone, yeah, sure, why not? I'm gonna bump Ed down because I've been thinking about Ed, but because
Oh shit! Ed's getting demoted.
yeah, same reason that I just said about like skaters with art. Like Ed had a sweet spot about 20 years ago where he'd sort of outgrown his dependence on Egon Schiele and David Hockney and Tobin Yellen and Larry Clark in his photography. But now he's like his technique has gotten better. He's like definitely a better painter, but his subject hasn't like progressed much. He's like any skater in their late 40s. Like we are still like thinking about our 20s. And so he's great for all that he does, but I'm putting him down to A.
Okay.
So yeah,
All
that's
right.
all. But still, A tier. That's great.
Yeah, no one wants to lose their spot to some 20-year-old kid named Kyler. That's a depressing outcome.
Oh yeah. Okay. Holy shit. Max Palmer.
Max
Really,
Palmer.
really good. I think. First off, he went to Pratt, so he's got a rigor of an arts education under his belt. Um, I really like if you go one slide ahead or maybe two, some of this stuff reminds me of what I really like about surrealist and early 20th century sculpture, like Merritt Oppenheim's Object, which is like a teacup and spoon covered in fur, or Man Ray's Gift. You can sort of see that relationship. It's an ironing board with nails in it. But I like that Max's materials are super just everyday materials. They're concrete and rusty nails, and there does seem to be this really interesting meditation on like or exploration of like the body and its relationship to these things. And like it's sort of like he like treats the concrete really tenderly, and then he allows for the metal, which is often like rebar or old springs or nails, to be as rugged and rusty and dangerous as it can be. And I think that's really cool.
I almost get the sort of vibe that that a lot of the stuff that he makes looks like some kind of underwater
oh yeah
creature.
yeah.
Like I don't
like
there's
sea anemones or something.
yeah, I was actually almost scared at first when I wanted to look up Max Palmer art because I was such a big fan of his skateboard. I'm like, God, what if it sucks? But it really doesn't suck at all. I think he's extremely good.
Yeah, I agree. And I think that like I always say that like skaters sort of have this acute awareness of texture and material in a way that like it takes non-skate artists like years to figure out. But I think like his like just the tender way that he treats concrete is so cool. I mean, I think this like weird back vertebrae thing is so interesting, like where you have almost like a fish spine made out of the negative space of these nails, I presume, facing one another in the void of this person's back. Mm-hmm. I think that's so cool. And I think like the way that he uses concrete, not to diss Chad Muska, but like, I fucking Muska's a legend, but like the way that he uses concrete is a lot more thoughtful and thought out, and in some ways more beautiful than the two examples that I used for Muska. And I don't hate Muska's like stuff. I just sort of, it doesn't make sense. It doesn't, there's not a logical reason why it
Yeah,
has to be
there's
concrete.
well, I don't. I also like this one that we talked about that what the up here. It's like what are you showing with this? Like with this
Yeah.
one, like this was a good one to talk about because it's like this is almost shaped like a classic, bust
Yeah.
sculpture of some
Yeah.
kind, but it's like, it's much more basic, and reduced down. But in doing that and using the nails and stuff, he's keeping with this theme that he has through a lot of his other work. It just like I think whatever he's trying to accomplish, it looks like he's accomplishing it. I don't know what Chad Muska is trying to accomplish with this.
Yeah.
I don't know what
Yeah.
he's trying to
Besides sort of,
say.
yeah, exactly. It's sort of like, like you could maybe skate that thing that Chad Muska is standing in front of. Like, I think he has footage skating it, but like, you wouldn't want to skate it. Whereas, like, in that, like, and as skaters, we're kind of like naturally not into like rough concrete. But there is this kind of like what I was saying about Max, like, the concrete that he uses is really like finished and cared for and kind of beautiful, or it's like rough you understand why it needs to be rough, and the metal is like dangerous but also kind of ordered, like I mean, again, it's like the difference between like someone who studied art and at Pratt versus
Yeah.
someone who just decided to pick up art. It's not Muska's fault. It's maybe an unfair comparison, but I was I'd never seen Max's art before either. Obviously I'm a fan, but now I'm even more of a Palmer stan.
I feel like as skaters too, as skaters, these do really like kind of satisfy some itch about like spots or looking at spots. And Max is one of those guys that makes, especially in his last Spitfire part, he constructs a lot of these like temporary things so that he can skate them. And his art too, it's like it does tickle something in the back of your head that maybe is exclusive to skaters. Like you could see this like little rainbow rail thing back here where it's like,
Yeah.
that would be so sick to skate if that was like life size, like a full concrete, rainbow rail hubba thing. Like it's just, there's something deeply satisfying to me about how all of these are constructed. Even this bottom right hand corner one, which isn't something that you'd be able to skateboard, it just has like, it has the vague and general like structures of like skateboarding spots or skateboarding obstacles that I like looking at, the same
Yeah.
when you're like craning your head outside of the window when you're driving and you see like some non-specific shape that like, you think could maybe be skatable. I get a lot of a similar kind of feeling of satisfaction from looking at these.
I'm voting for like A.
We have so many people in the A tier.
Well, some people can go down, but I'll put Ed Templeton down by Lottie,
Were we too harsh to Jerry?
Well, you think Jerry should be S?
I feel like he should be maybe higher up on the. I don't know if.
I forgot that there's like a lateral thing too.
Kind of, yeah.
Yeah, put Jerry at the top, at the front of the line.
Yeah,
Put Lou closer to Jerry.
I'll admit, I read some. I was reading about some of these artists, and one of the art critics had said that Jerry had put out one of the best photo books of the last 10 years or something, and I was like,
Hell yeah.
Maybe he's a little better than our tier list would lead you to believe. So
this is a subjective tier list. He's in good company right here. I put Ed Templeton down by. I put Brian Lottie above Ed Templeton. Why do we put Ed so far up? I'm not going to rewatch that video. It's traumatic for me.
Yeah, I can't rewatch anything. Brian Lottie above Ed Templeton?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Let's stop fiddling. All right.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
Christopher.
I don't hate this at all. I mean, we can talk about these. Go ahead. Like, what do you think about Chris Milich's art?
Okay. Well, I actually thought kind of that I would not like his, his fine art or whatever you would like to call it. It's weird to call something fine art that I have just like so closely associate, with badly printed frog boards. Like this is like also used in combination with like Jesse Alba eating a McDonald's cheeseburger. So that's like definitely a hurdle to jump over mentally. But actually, he's pretty good. I think he's pretty good. And I think, I'm not an expert, but I do feel like his work is relatively original looking to me. Like
Yeah.
I don't see a bunch of like immediate like, oh, this looks like this or that looks like this. I also like, I guess, that in his style, I feel like a lot of people, especially maybe more amateur artists, have a tendency to go like the darker route with their like work and the way they approach stuff. And like Chris is going, like, he goes for the light, he goes for like the bright colors. And it's like, I don't know, it doesn't come across as like very serious, but at the same time it looks genuine and kind of like there's a degree of professionalism to his art that I kind of appreciate. He looks competent to me.
Yeah. Like I think he is a genuine weirdo. And I think he's genuinely creative and a very interesting person. And so like I put up this little slide just because to me, like I got into art because of the artist on the upper left in that second side, like Saul Steinberg. He was an illustrator for New Yorker. And so I found that the artists that I liked when I started skateboarding were like Neil Blender and Mark Gonzalez, you know? And I do see an affinity between like Chris's work and theirs, although I don't even know if that affinity is like conscious. I'm just saying it's hard to make art that looks like this stuff that I think is excellent and do it well enough that I think it's interesting. And I think he pulls that off, you know? Like
Yeah,
I don't think he's derivative. I just think he's in the same family of shit that I like.
yeah. That's a good point. Like putting Gonza's stuff here, and then also Keith Haring.
Yeah, Keith Haring.
It's
Yeah,
like,
sure.
when you look at guys who were inspired by Keith Haring or Gons, like, it almost always looks derivative. I totally agree with you. And Chris's stuff, if you did like a gallery, I think, and you like, or a showing, and you put Mark Gonzalez, Keith Haring, and you put Chris Millick's art all in there, they would look, like they were of a similar genre, like playful, like very gesturative, but they all look individual to me.
Yeah.
Which is a really, really fucking hard thing to pull off because, Keith Haring and then, Basquiat, those are like maybe some of the two most ripped off and repeated and copied guys of all time. And it's just like, it's just fucking painful. So that's almost like he gets like additional or compounded bonus points for contributing to like a similar vein and not having it be like, disingenuous or, corny.
Yeah, I also think that it's very well put. I also think that it shows that you don't have to be like as technically talented or advanced as like Kyler, but you can still at the same time do something using basically the same forms and technique as Grayson, but just do it where it's like balanced. Like there's like a nice sense of like order and harmony to all of Chris's works. Like that figure and its triangular sort of splayed legs in the foreground on the right, like that sort of stabilizes us to look at it, and then that sort of makes everything else sort of fall into place. So like it's a fairly traditional like pyramidal or triangular composition that kind of roots your eye to the center of the painting, and then you can kind of like fit everything else around that. He's very good at that, and I think you need to do that sometimes, especially when you're kind of doing what would be considered sort of childish or like rudimentary type of forms, stick figures and like whatever.
Yeah, it's like the one at the bottom corner, like with the bunny rabbit and the dog on top of it. It's like, oh, it looks like it's funny. This is almost one of those perfect examples of people who don't like art when they go, my kid could have done that. Like that's exactly what that looks like. That people, I guess, would see no difference between what Chris Millick is doing and what their 7-year-old is spitting out.
Yeah, but it's like so hard to like actually get into that headspace and do it as an adult. But yeah, I like him. So
yeah,
let's see.
Too.
I forgot about the tier, but I'm gonna put him middle to upper.
You forgot where you're not allowed to just speak from the heart about things, but then you have to quantify them afterwards so that
I know
people can get satisfaction on the other end of the screen.
Let's put him at B.
B, okay, yeah, I like that. I do you like him? Do you like him more or less than Neckface?
I like him about the same, but Neckface is like a
legend, bro.
Yeah,
Neckface is the legend. All right.
Yes.
Oh fuck me.
Okay. I created a little game here with Sibo Walker.
Oh no.
I identify the one that's the SIBO and identify the one that inspired the SIBO. Who's who?
I think I can tell by his signature,
Ah, there you go. Yeah.
but
Total amateur move too, signing your shit like that this far into the game. He's
dude,
okay. All right. Like I'm not saying that these images aren't appealing, but it's like slick illustration. Not
I think this stuff sucks mega balls.
okay, yeah.
Yeah,
Like
I think this stuff sucks mega. It's like he took the things about, you know, what he was inspired by, and he made them like less interesting. Like he made them more boring. Like
yeah.
I really really, and it's like he like infantilized them as well. Like these ones really fucking piss me off a lot. They look
Yeah.
like cartoons, like a cartoon like shit, but then like, you know, it's you could tell they are made with the intention of being perceived as fine art as well. And like that's what I liked about Chris is Chris just looks like he's making stuff to make it. Maybe he thinks they're gonna go in a gallery, maybe he doesn't, but it looks like he's just fucking creating. To me, like Sibo Walker's shit looks like he tried to identify a style and copy a technique that would allow him to gain some kind of foothold somewhere. And that just makes me want to fucking break this Coca-Cola bottle over my head.
Okay, yeah. I don't feel as extremely as you do, but I do agree that there is something kind of calculated. Like he's like, what does illustration look like? And what does this like, herring inspired this and that look like? And like how close can I rip off Matisse or Fernand Léger or Don Pendleton? Like there's all these things that he's kind of like borrowing from. And I don't know. I mean, prove me wrong, but show me the good work of art that has a skateboard in it. And I when skateboards make their way into the work of art, you lose me. And like
You know what? Actually, I'm glad you said that. Did you include Pontus in here at all?
no.
Okay,
You
because
didn't ask me to.
oh, did I not put him in?
Yeah.
I thought I maybe did. There is actually one thing, since we're on the topic. There is one that Pontus did that I actually don't hate because I pretty
Is it
much
like the no comply?
no, it's not that one. It's better than that one. I would. I think is it this one? Oh yeah, here we go. I usually almost all the time agree with you. I'm not saying this is like a great piece of art or anything, but in terms of, you know, stuff that involves skateboarding, this is about as close to something good as I've ever seen. So let me, if I saw this being like, you know, situated next to the Tokyo Olympics like
Right.
graphic, I wouldn't be like, oh, who the fuck did they hire to draw that? I'd be like, that looks pretty good.
Yeah, it's okay. I mean, I agree, but like, I'm still sort of like, I don't really think that Sibo's aspiring to like show his art seriously. So I don't want to like come down too hard on him. Like, all of this stuff makes sense to like, as a poster for like
You don't think
some,
that he wants this to be taken seriously?
I mean, I know he's selling it on his website and stuff like that, but like, I don't know. It seems like calculated.
To me, if you didn't want this to be taken seriously, I don't know why you do it. Because why I'm just like, if this to me, like, I don't know, you know more about this than I do, but this reads to me as like a ploy to trick people like into like, you know,
Yeah.
giving you props or buying your shit. Like this is completely unoriginal, so I don't know why
Right.
you would spend your time on this if you didn't have some sort of, you know, nefarious goal that you were trying to accomplish.
Like it's like it'd be you. I wouldn't hate if I like checked into an Airbnb in like La Jolla. I wouldn't hate seeing that on the wall.
No.
I mean, I would expect to see it on the wall. I wouldn't be stoked on it, but I would just be like, okay. I think it's illustration. I think it's just like graphics, like I like the book covers he did for Walker Ryan. Like, I think those are good, Um,
I didn't see those.
yeah, I mean, he's okay. But I just sort of think like, again, like, let's not compare him to, even Pontus, like, yeah, now that I think about it, like Margaret Kilgillen, I never know how to pronounce her name, but she was one of the sort of like mission school artists. She had figures on skateboards. Even sometimes Ed Templeton, when he paints like figures on longboards, like it's okay, but like the way that he's using skateboards like in this like early 20th century thing like just feels so weird. No, not feeling it. Let's put him. Let's. Where does he go on the tier?
I mean, I think we should send him to the darkest dungeons where he can be tortured for the rest of eternity. But what do you think?
I think he and Dill would have some interesting conversations on tier C.
Okay, I don't mind that. I don't mind that at all. Okay, let me ask you this though: would you rather have any one of Sibo Walker's things in your house, or would you rather have that glowing Grayson Fletcher guy?
Siba Walker's paintings look like they smell like plastic, and Grayson Fletcher's ones look like they smell like piss. So I'm gonna go with the walk. I'm going Walker on that. No offense, Grayson.
I'm saying this. My opinion. I'd rather have this guy in my
Okay,
living
yeah.
room on the right. I'd rather.
You can
I'd
you
rather
can
take
elevate
him.
him. He can Grayson can hang out with Muska, Dill, and Sibo over in
At the
C.
very least, this one
Yeah,
is a conversation piece. Like people
totally.
will walk in and be like, "Damn, what the fuck is that, homie?" I'll be like, "Yeah, it goes kind of hard though when you think about it." And then this one though, like maybe that's part of why I hate it so much. It's just designed to blend in. It's designed
Yeah,
to be unobjectionable and uninspired,
yeah.
and
It's anodyne, sugary. Like again, it'd look great on like as like a tea bag or something. Little graphics like when you're drinking tea or like I don't know on in Target. You know,
oh yeah, big Target
don't
vibes there.
don't want to sound like too much of a yuppie, but like the art that you buy in Target is not as good as the art you buy in a skate shop.
Oh boy, I want you to go first.
Okay. Um, these are very well executed illustrations, and I like the mixture of ink and watercolor or acrylic in each of these. I don't think that they stand up as great works of art independent of my admiration for Nora as a skater and probably a person. They're cool. They're like really well done, thoughtful doodles. What do you
Okay,
think?
I think they're bad. I also though I am a biased person because she hates me because she
Well,
made
now I know
a
why.
well yeah she made a video where she was laughing at somebody. There was a video on a Venice beach and fucking who was it? Somebody was like crooked grind slappying and he almost ran into this lady who was walking and the lady was like upset and Nora was like pointing the camera at her laughing like cackling at her and I did a video on it one time where I was like fuck you, that lady's using the sidewalk, you sound like an evil witch. I mean, I think this is like I think what the note that I wrote down about this is like the one on the left. I was like, this looks like an Ewok that listens to the Shins.
Yeah, it is definitely like Ewok. Yeah, it's like circa 2003 kind of
Yeah,
indie.
it's
Yeah.
so trapped in time. It's like this is I think one of the worst, the saddest things about the majority of millennials, and maybe this is like, applicable to a lot of generations, and me, I'm just more aware of it because I've grown up alongside millennials. Like millennials have this cage that they can't fucking break out of. They feel like they got old so fast.
Yeah.
And this kind of shit, also got old so fast. Like this style is, pretty common
Yeah.
and just
Yeah,
like
yeah.
kind of like wistful like halfway trippy like yo this is like when I visited Yosemite that one time and I was like totally fucking vibing out and chilling there.
I think that her line work is really good. I think she's a good illustrator. I think that, and I'm not blaming her for this, but it's like, yeah, like go to a museum and like go see like the stuff that you're interested in or have been doing has been done for like 100 years, and then see what you could do that's new. Like I think these are okay as illustrations, and I'm a little more like positive about it, but I'm also just like obviously she's not like an artist, like this isn't her day job. So
Yeah.
like that looks fun. They both look fun enough to draw, and I can connect to them there. But like, yeah, I mean, it's I think that what they suffer from is just like a lack of awareness of like how many things have been made in the past that look so very similar to that. C tier. I think she needs to kind of hang out with.
Am I crazy for saying I think
Yeah, you want her to be
Grayson?
D. I know you want her to be
Do
D.
I?
But
Okay, I think Grayson Fletcher is better than her.
I disagree. She's a good illustrator. She has some skill.
Okay,
She's
but what
has skill.
How much do you
lives with
value?
Dill.
How much? How I like that. How much value though do you place on being a competent, like, illustrator technically?
I place some value on it. I mean, obviously, I'm putting someone like Chris like higher up on the thing because I like what he does more. But like, yeah, competent illustrator is definitely like C tier in my book because Sibo's a competent illustrator. His just ideas aren't there, and Nora's a competent illustrator. It's just like the ideas maybe aren't there.
Okay. I guess we look at it a little bit differently where I don't really. I guess because I never learned how to draw and I was never good at drawing, I never I don't know. Maybe I have a resentment complex about because I went to this private school and some of the kids in the class were really fucking good at drawing and everyone would kiss their ass all the time and everything they did was considered, perfect. And we were always, referring or deferring to them as oh, there's this girl called Sophie and Sophie was she was good at everything. She was fucking and an amazing artist as well. So good at every single fucking class and such a good artist and everything was Sophie this, Sophie that. So maybe I have a little problem with people that can draw.
Next we have Brian Anderson.
Is Brian Anderson before Nick Merlino?
I think so.
What's your take?
Okay, so I read a little from the article and this is I guess he comes from a family his dad did paintings and his dad's dad was paintings too, and then they did a lot of nautical lighthouses and boats and such, and I think there was an element to this too where Brian Anderson he does a little bit of that mind expanding LSD or shrooms type of action, and I think there's some inspiration there. I'm having a hard time articulating exactly, but I think that what you're kind of supposed to think about when you look at this is your relationship to a memory and how things in the physical realm maybe aren't super important, or that your spirit is a greater or more important thing than all of them. It's something along those lines. Am I getting somewhere with that? I don't know.
Yes. I think you are. So I have some notes too. This is what I wrote about this stuff. It kind of looks like a copy of Ed Templeton before he got boring.
Oh, I actually, you know what? I see that now. You know what's making me think that is this guy's nose right here.
That
looks like an Ed Templeton nose.
Yeah, and just kind of, I mean, just the kind of that style, which I think they're both getting from David Hockney. Down in the lower right or lower left corner on the second side. Those sprinkler ones, that type
Holy
of stuff.
Shit. That sprinkler painting's really good, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean that's Hockney in the '60s, and then
wow.
So I think he's sort of taking from all these things, and he's pretty good at putting them all together. I see the Andrew Wyeth, Christina's World, he must have gotten from walking around MoMA. There's definitely some similarities in the way that Templeton treats figures and BA's doing things. The problem with this stuff for me is that very seldom does someone else's psychedelic trip, which must have been mind-blowing for them, translate to an experience that is anywhere akin to that psychedelic trip for the audience of the work of art. Right. It's like someone telling you about a dream that they had. You're just well, that sounds really cool, but it has nothing to do with my reality, Yeah. And it's these are cool. And I fucking, I love BA. He's a fucking legend. I know he's a really sweet and sincere dude. And there is this cool sense of wonder in his work. And I know that we're not seeing it alongside the work of his father and grandfather. And again, what the fuck, Jankum? If you're going to take photos of an art show that features 3 artists, show the 3 artists fucking work, because I'm only getting 1/3 of the experience here. So I don't know how this work dialogues with his father and his grandfather. I only see how it dialogues with Hockney, Templeton,
But they don't
and Wyatt.
skate, Ted. Those guys
Yeah,
didn't skate,
no, of
and
course.
we're Jenkum. So
Is tantamount to someone telling you about this trip that they had, but you weren't on that trip.
I don't like when people take pieces of other art and like I don't like how he took this and put it in there like that. I don't know why that just really like kind of irks me.
I mean, I don't mind quotations from other works of art, but I think they have to make some kind of sense to like everyone and not just the artist. Christina's World is such an iconic image, and that like people like have written volumes about. So it seems a little bit arbitrary. But I don't know. I haven't asked Brian, and I would love to know what he thinks. Okay, so here's So again, I don't hate it. It's probably not for me. And I don't want to like, again, like, fuck, man, Brian Anderson's sick, like he should do whatever the fuck he wants. Let the hippie ride. I think that it reminds me too much of better versions of this type of stuff. Like Peter Doig does stuff like this, and it's amazing. Even Templeton's like funky stuff from 20 years ago is like on par with, if not better than, and in some ways I can connect to it more than this stuff. But again, I'm not dissing him.
I sounded more negative than I wanted to be. I really don't I don't mind. Like, the concept feels kind of simple, and I don't have a problem with that.
I've seen worse stuff by him, so let's like, or before. So I'd put him C. You could put him B if you want.
I don't know.
Definitely,
I think he's top of the C. I think
top of the C for sure. Yeah. This
good.
Isn't his only thing. He can be there. He can actually like teach Muska, Dill, Sibo, and Nora a lot about like not taking yourself too seriously.
I like it. Let's continue on this fucking trippy theming,
brother. I'm gonna write a fan fiction about all the conversations that these artists have, like in their different tiers. Okay, now here's a perfect counter. Joe Roberts, LSD World Peace. I am not into psychedelics, but I actually enjoy Joe Roberts' representation. Like, I fucking hate the Grateful Dead. Cancel me in the comments, but I like that he likes them, and I like why he likes them, and I like his representation of psychedelia and tripping. As a rule, I don't love like the weird kind of like hippies of my generation, like who look back to the 60s as this idealistic time. But I like that when I see it represented in like what he's doing in his art, I think it's fucking awesome. And I would say this to his face. Like, I don't connect to any of this, but I love it in art, because that's the cool thing about art, is it's supposed to show you someone else's experience, and then you appreciate their perspective.
Dude, I don't know if I'd want to. I don't know if I'd want to roll the dice saying anything to his. He looks like he might bite you if you say the wrong thing.
Bite?
Yeah.
He is the sweetest.
No, I'm sure he is. I saw a video of it. This one made me laugh too, because I feel like there's been a couple times where he's just been, like feeding himself a tab of acid, then like look down at his dog, and his dog has just been staring at him, and he's like, and then just giving it to his dog.
Yeah,
the dog looks like it's seen a couple of trips as well.
Yeah, I love Joe, and I don't love all of his art, but I'm into it. So I think he's legit. He's the real deal.
Do we have another? Yeah, this one's cool. Like this pattern one. This reminds me again. I also haven't done. I have never done psychedelics, but I remember a couple times when I've been really high on edibles, and the pattern thing. This is another, like, I guess, sort of thing that's really hard to represent without being cringe. Like, oh man, I'm high and I'm like seeing a bunch of repeated shit. He does it in a way that's like really sick. I don't even know.
I mean, yeah.
Why? Like, but it is.
Somehow, like, BA made tripping seem kind of like you'd see it. That's something you do if you like are opening up a trans world, and Joe made tripping seem like an ayahuasca trip, like a mind blowing thing, and he was able to do that. I mean, I've never really tripped that hard. I've never taken acid, but like, this is how people describe it.
Dude, I fucking love this one on the bottom right, because it's like he's just it feels so I like the incorporation of all of the everyday items as well. Like he's having a bowl of Life cereal and there's a notebook, but then you look out the window and it's like he is just fully tripping fucking balls. Like there's like Ninja Turtles on a helicopter, and there's witches and like a fucking haunted mansion, and there's bats and there's giants walking around, but it's like all that's happening out there, but then like on the inside, it's like he's just kind of looking out. There's like a feeling of like safety about this, kind of in a similar way where you're like, you know, you're sitting by the fire and it's like pouring rain outside. This imagery is like kind of like spooky, but it's not scary. Like I like that that about it too. Like I never feel like I'm having a bad trip looking at his work, but I feel like it's still, the degree of intensity is still pretty high.
Yeah, like the painter Wayne Thiebaud talks about how like he wants his paintings to have empathy, like you can see your way in them, even if the artist's vision perspective is very, very different, you can find your way in these works, and I kind of like that. Like I agree. I mean, I'm not like a fucking, I don't like drugs, but I like that drugs help Joe produce this.
Yeah, absolutely. High marks for me for LSD World Peace.
Yeah, I would say A or S.
I could go
Dude, you
S.
fucked that tier up. You're serious that Chris Markovich is in the same tier as Bobby Pulio, dude? Your A tier is so fucked up, Joe.
How did you were there too?
I did not put Chris Markovich.
Okay, you know what? It's entirely possible that like because we saved it like, and then it like it's on a web browser, so it could have mixed some things up.
Okay, Markovich is down with Minnick.
Because I don't remember having him that high either.
Yeah, it's just whatever.
So you want him in D? Yeah, we didn't like him, did we?
No,
I don't know how that
I mean.
happened.
Yeah.
I don't know how that
whatever.
happened.
Okay. All right.
Auto, man.
Wake up, man. He's one of my favorite skaters, so I'm willing to forgive a lot. Yeah, that backside flip over the like ditch in the flip video, he can do no wrong. I will say that the usual cast of craggy skaters and like sunburnt surfers is not my taste, and I'm not an expert in photography, so I don't know how, like, I wouldn't be able to identify printing technique, what type of emulsion he's using, all that sort of stuff.
He's using a silver lithograph for this one, Ted.
Right, exactly. But like all that sort of stuff, like I don't know yet. I'm learning about photography, but they seem pretty slick, and I much prefer if you go down, like that's cool. That's pretty good. That's a good photo, I think. I could be wrong, but it seems pretty good. Go down one more. These are great. What the fuck? Clearly his passion, he lives in Hawaii, like he's like into surfing, and I think his like, I don't look at a lot of surf photos, but that's a beautiful image. I'm into that much more than his skate shit, and I think he's also into this much more than his skate shit.
Yeah, I had a similar impression looking at the photos on his website. I was just kind of mesmerized at the lighting conditions in some of these and how like layered the photos were.
I think these are great. Like,
yeah,
I think he's figuring it out. Whatever he's doing, he's fucking figuring it out. And I like to, like, obviously that Felper one is before some of these surfer ones, you know?
Yeah, I don't, I went to study art for a little bit. It was like a very commercial photography program. And there was a lot of stuff that I saw like this, which was like, you know, old haggard guy on black and white. Look at his fucked up. This guy got bit by a dog in black and white. It's like, oh my God. To the community of people that it serves, I guess they get excited about it, I think. But I find this stuff to be like pretty boring and just like very technical as well. Like, which I've never, like, anything technical usually doesn't appeal to me that much. But like this style of photography too, I'm like, oh, like fucking tough guy, you know, like, ooh, like in black and white, not for me.
But also at the risk of like, I don't know, offering too much analysis about this, like, you know, the most lifelike and kind of beautiful and kind of, to me, really amazing photos are surfing ones. and the most kind of depressing and kind of interesting but like less compelling ones are his skate ones. And so I think it's like it's almost like you have this like negative self-portrait where you're like, do you want to end up like fucking Dwayne Peters and Steve Olson and Jay Adams and Phelps, like his skate backgrounds? Or do you want to be in Hawaii, like in nature, like in this amazing land seascape? Like,
Yeah.
I don't know. I mean, again, that's total projection, but I just think his future is in that. I also sort of think, again, like, I wonder how much he's showing these at galleries. A lot of the stuff looks like it's really compelling, like commercial work. You know?
Yeah. This one, I feel like this one was almost a really good photo. But there's a couple things that didn't fully work about it. But what I at least like with this one is like this was a harder thing to pull off, I think. And like, you know, just taking a guy into a studio or whatever, just like shooting the homies looking tough in black and white is like not as challenging. Like this is a much more difficult thing to shoot, I think, and like more ambitious. And I also respect, you know, putting it in colors. A lot of problems go bye-bye when you go black and white. There is one that I wanted to show you from him because I thought it was pretty funny.
Yeah, I think I know which one you're showing, but
there is one. There is one that trumps them all. One king to rule them all.
Oh, is that the one?
Yeah, this one.
Yeah, I mean, what the fuck? I mean, he's obviously just trying to like.
This looks like a school project.
Yeah, he's. I mean, this is also probably like Lance Mountain was like, hey, I have all this like weird World War II stuff because my dad collected military memorabilia. Like, can we have me in a bomber's? You know, like this whole thing. It's just like
I was always fascinated because they made us do stuff like this for Photoshop class, and it's like, so you're gonna have like two guys skating, and then you're gonna have to make like a World War II like, you know, fighter scene behind it of two, you know, pilots trying to shoot each other down. And in my head, I'd see all the finished results of everybody. I'm like, who would ever, like, sure, we're learning skills and there's practical applications to this, but sometimes I look at the end results and I'm like, who the fuck would ever want this to exist? And it actually blew my mind to open Artosari's website and see that, like, somebody did want this to exist. Somebody actually outside of, like, an academic or learning environment wanted some, like, heinous image like this to be real.
I agree, but I'm going to give him the benefit of the doubt and say that the clients for commercial photo, like for how photographers actually make their bread and butter, which is like shooting for stupid companies that have stupid clients, like this is the sort of shit that they would be like, hey, this is really cool, you know?
This guy, he's got what we're looking for. Like
$60,000 to shoot a campaign, and no one sees it because it's not his life's work, but like that's how you make your money as a photographer. Like
you're probably right. Okay, Arto, sorry.
You know, he's okay. So Arto, yeah, he's a commercial dude. So I don't blame him for it. Like he paid his fucking dues as a skateboarder. He can do whatever the fuck he wants as a photographer.
S tier.
So, no.
Okay, all right, not S tier.
I was put him B because it's obviously commercial work. You know, but dude, those surfing photos are amazing. Like
I agree. I thought those were his best work as well. Yeah. Nick Merlino.
Okay.
Oh, do you have a statement prepared?
Yes. Let's see my notes. Looks like Bob Ross but shittier.
Damn.
This type of trite landscape art has been done to death by other artists much more interesting and talented than Nick. With more to say and a better attitude. Like he would do well to go to a museum and see the way in which like hotel room landscape art has been done by other artists. I mean, right off the top of my head, there's a really cool artist named Oliver Jeffers who does children's books, but he also has like an art career. He did a lot of stuff like this. But it was cool, and Nick's shit isn't cool. I mean, what the fuck? He feels persecuted because he's a Christian. I get that maybe being a Christian isn't like culturally cool, but like
persecuted is not the right word.
Yeah. So let's read the caption right now. Everyday Christians are being persecuted for their THERE,
Yeah.
whatever, religious belief. This is what it looks like to pick up the cross and carry it with you. Christianity isn't always about prosperity and abundance of blessings. It's also about sacrificing and standing up for what you believe in, even if it costs you your life. For whoever wants to save his life will lose it. I don't think that Matthew 16:25 actually had loose instead of lose.
It's from memory, bro. He
Right.
takes this shit seriously.
Well, he got loses right in the second part, but whoever loses his life because of me will find it. Okay. It is so, I'm not saying that like all prisoners don't wear orange jumpsuits, but if you're going to have hooded figures marching prisoners anywhere in visual culture in the 21st century, and you're talking about Christians getting persecuted and not talking about Guantanamo Bay and like Islamic like men largely who've been in prison for being suspected of being terrorists, like that's fucking insane. You're comparing the cultural persecution of that Christians feel to imprisonment and torture and detaining people. Is fucking psychotic. And it's a stupid thing, and I don't want to get too political here, but it's like, yeah, as a country, culturally, we are very progressive, but as a culture, we are, as a country politically, we are super conservative. Like we have, Roe versus Wade is getting rolled back. Like gay marriage is getting banned in the United States. Christianity is not under attack, like in this country. It may not be cool to be Christian, but like you're definitely not being persecuted. No one's being put into prisons on a fucking Sunset Beach because of their Christianity. It is so insane.
Yeah.
Like this is fucking terrible. Like this would make a shitty hotel room even shittier if I saw this painting in it,
It reminds me of like when there's this Jonah Hill controversy where he was talking about boundaries or whatever, and whatever I don't know if you were familiar with that, and he was talking about what his boundaries were. And if people talk about their rights and stuff, but it's like whatever your rights are, that's like how things affect you. Like you have a right to not get, punched in the face or whatever every day. Like you have certain rights and certain liberties. You don't have a right to control like what other people do. And I think that's their right. That's their freedom. And I think this is how Christian people rationalize things, where they're like, it's not enough that they have the right to practice their own religion. Like that's not enough. They need to be respected and they need to be in control as well. So if they don't have those rights, then, a fucking idiot like Nick Merlino will interpret that as being persecuted. Anything less than like absolute control and authority is not enough, and it's not what he and other Christians feel like they're entitled to, so he's gonna fucking make this shitty piece of art about it.
Look at Western culture. If you think Christianity has been underrepresented, or I don't know, go to a church, or maybe just check what date it is. Christianity has not been like persecuted or submerged. It is still very much at the forefront of like how we think about the world, whether you're a Christian or not. And I have friends that are Christian. I'm not like dissing them. I just think that this is he's coming at this from a place of extreme ignorance. And it's one thing to like make art about people being detained in prison suits. It's another thing to not be aware how that art can be seen by someone else as like making a very arbitrary and trite point about people being persecuted for their religious beliefs, and not having it be about Muslim, largely men, who are being persecuted and detained by the United States. Like, I mean, maybe I'm projecting that onto it, but I just think it's so fucking crazy that he would have this caption about being persecuted for religious beliefs and then have it be about Christianity with the fucking...
It comes across as so self-involved.
The other thing too is it's like, I sort of think he's sort of setting up this ruse of like, look at this beautiful seascape, and then it's spoiled by this scene of persecution and imprisonment. Like, think about that. It's so fucking childish. Mm-hmm. Again, I don't think he's the sharpest tool in the shed, but this is outrageously bad. A special place in hell for this guy. Fuck you, Nick Merlino.
Yeah, that's really, it's so, so fucked.
It's almost, he makes me like all these other artists so much more.
The overall damage, is so much more severe of what Nick Merlino is doing. Like, to talk about Grayson Fletcher again, it's like, he's doing isn't great, but it's completely fucking harmless. And that's kind of partially why I even like the radioactive, sea monster.
Yeah,
It's like, because
totally.
that's it. It's a radioactive sea monster. It has no consequence on anything else versus like Nick Merlino, who's just like recycling garbage that he's ingesting from Fox News, where it's like
Yeah.
Christians are, they don't fucking, we're everyone's after us to fucking get us in this country. It's like, dude, shut the fuck up.
Yeah, I know. I mean, especially like in the last 6 months, like, you know, with the Supreme Court overturning like Roe versus Wade, shit like that, like this bullshit.
We have two more to go over quickly. I guess we could just look at his Instagram real quick.
Yeah. The reason why I didn't put either of these on in the PowerPoint is that I know both of these people personally. I like them, and I generally am in favor of what they do, so I can't be critical of their art. I think that Mike Gelati,
Is that how you say it?
yeah, Gelati.
God damn
That's why
it.
it was called Lottie. It's okay. Italian
Gig-
people can't even pronounce his last name.
Gigliotti.
No, it's Gelati. He oscillates between doing really intricate but deliberately stupid illustrations, and I think it's actually really good. Like he's like looking at like the great skate artists of like the 80s and stuff, and he's sort of doing stuff for Anti-Hero and Baker like that. I think that's fine. I do think he's probably smarter than most of his clients, and so sometimes when he misses the mark, it's just because he doesn't really respect the intelligence. I think he really respects the people he works for, but I think he's like also having worked in a skate shop as long as he has and having grown up in skateboarding and being a smart dude. I think that like he sometimes is just like,
You think he's giving them kind of what he thinks they want?
yeah,
And it's
yeah,
like
yeah.
limiting his subject matter, perhaps? Is that
Yeah, because he can. Yeah, exactly. Because he's shown me like paintings he's done, and they're so good. And
I've
he's,
seen
like,
some of the paintings that he did, like stuff like this. This is not what I was. I didn't know that he did this kind of shit. This was 2014.
yeah, I mean, he had this whole amazing book called Selfie that just showed the most absurdly exaggerated caricatures of people that you might find taking selfies on Instagram in like 2013 or something, and they're amazing. They're so good. I mean, they're disgusting, but like it is so hard to like do drawings that are both disgusting and lewd and funny
Mm-hmm.
and direct, So I fuck with him. I think he's really good.
Yeah, he's like on more of the cusp of like looking pretty professional to me. With his work versus like, being like, oh, that's good for a skater. Whereas
No,
like,
no,
oh,
he's
I
yeah,
actually like this stuff independent of all the skateboarding.
yeah, I
partners.
think he like skateboard graphics and culture are lucky to have him because he's choosing to like direct his talents to that. So I'm like,
Yeah.
the
There
highest
is
praise
like
I can offer.
he's clearly very talented, and there is a certain like kind of desire or market for subject matter or an aesthetic in skating, which is like skulls, weed, cigarettes, spiders, all that shit that's just like kind of fringe hardcore looking. That's all things that will definitely get put on Baker skateboards.
He likes Anti-Hero and he likes Baker and he gets to work for Anti-Hero, Baker, and Vans. Like he's in good shape. So
Yeah.
I would put him like, again, we're looking at his graphics, so I think he's got to be an A. Oh, you're gonna put him in B? You
No,
fucker?
no. I'm just kind of edging around here.
But let's put Stefan down in B because I think that was a controversial take anyway, and
Yeah.
like people who made points against Stefan are maybe right,
Yeah, I think he's in the A tier as well. I like his stuff a lot. And even just like the basic skateboarding stuff, I think is pretty cool too.
Cool. We agree. Nice.
Okay. So
Again, I recuse myself from any harsh judgments about Alex Olson and his work because
yeah, I know he's done a lot of shit like he did some NFT thing with like Spanky a while ago or something, and it's really hard to find any of that shit, but I did find these like photos that he did where he photographed these shopping carts.
Okay, so there's a thing about Alex where he kind of gets into bed with the wrong people just because like I mean not like literally, but like I just mean he's sometimes like he's a nice enough guy and he's open-minded and he'll sort of like end up doing something that may have already been done before by other people or just may not be the most like culturally sensitive thing. but he does it really well. And I think
Yeah.
he's like naturally very talented and has a good eye and good taste, if not good judgment. So
Yeah,
I
he's skilled. He's
yeah,
talented. Like he's inclined to be successful at the stuff that he pursues. And I completely agree with your critique that, like, you know, maybe doing a, you know, photographic series about how homelessness is a problem in Los Angeles is not only ABD, but also like you have to consider who you are as a person and how you like kind of fit in with that.
yeah,
And it's like, to what degree is it like I'm doing a documentation of this as like a person who is doing nothing to help it other than possibly using it to like accelerate my own interests? Like that's a very like sticky situation, and a thing like that I think a lot of people wouldn't want to touch. And maybe Alex is like, he's being bold, or maybe he hasn't considered it. I don't know. But it is kind of a sketchy thing. Outside
yeah,
of all of that, I think that he went about this in a way where he's just photographing the shopping carts of like the homeless people is a lot better than what, you know, a lot of other people do, which is like stick a fucking DSLR in like a homeless guy's face, which is just like, oh my God, dude, please.
yeah, yeah.
So, and you know, to your point as well, like he does it, like the photos are pretty good. You know, especially this last one is obviously the best one. Like these veiled, like almost they look like they're floating things. So yeah, I think it's like he's done a lot of stuff, but in terms of this photo series, it's like it's a mixed bag. But I could have turned out much worse.
Yeah, I agree. I had a pithy thing to wrap up Alex and Mike's relationship, and I think it's like Alex turns shit into gold, and Mike risks turning the gold of his talent into skate industry shit.
Please clap.
No, it's good. It's good.
Yeah.
I'm gonna insert some
Wah,
clapping.
wah.
I didn't say anything because I'm gonna insert some clapping
Okay.
into the or if I decide I didn't like that in editing, I'll insert the clip of Jeb Bush going, "Please clap."
I don't think he's like only making art, you know. So maybe
Yeah.
like so, but I would put him B or A.
Really, A.
Okay, B.
I don't think he's A. I also have seen a lot of the stuff that Alex Olson is doing now, and he's like very, very slutty with his brand and like the trends that he, and I have to assume he knows like all of the basic, you know, like things that are tried and true to like sell right now, like whatever's Nike is doing, like making like really loose fonts and then putting like a gradient over the background of them. He just like fucking does whatever is like popular. And he's like does collaborations with like Uniqlo and stuff. So I know he's whoring it out right now for sure.
And listen, like in his defense, and let me just say this because like I've said this other places, but this is something I truly believe. Like if Alex grew up in Malibu, but he didn't grow up in wealthy Malibu. He grew up in his dad's garage. And like, if your dad was a pro skater in the 70s and already over it by the time that like you started skating, you would never like respect how great and wonderful being a fucking pro skater is, even when you're like one of the best pro skaters with the best sponsor list ever. You'd see it as bullshit.
Yeah.
And I think that like all this talk about like Alex, like, you know, bungling, but like 917 and the dude's leaving and blah, blah, like maybe that's valid on some level. But on the other hand, it's like, dude, companies are there to make money. And most of our favorite companies that we like don't make money, and they don't make money because the skateboard industry fucking sucks and they're run shittily, you know? And I think he's like much more interested into like the creative side of like doing stuff with graphics and all that stuff. Like who wants to be a fucking team manager, you know? So I don't blame him for like,
people
I think
that aren't team managers want to be team managers.
Exactly. I think 917 had a good run, and like 5 years of a company is like that's all you could hope for. No company has stayed cooler for more than 5 years. And so I don't know. I mean, it's like I don't blame him for slutting his shit out. Like you got to make money.
No,
you know?
I'm not even really like coming for him at all, because I'm just commenting on sort of like what he appears to be doing with his time right now. And he also just had a kid, so if you're
he's got a kid.
If you're gonna slut it out, slut it out. But Also, like I like that you give that background or that context to like how he grew up with his dad, because for me, he has looked like a person that is just over it all the fucking time. Like no matter what he's involved in, it doesn't seem like he seems like he's already kind of over the hump in terms of interest. And like the 917 thing too, like I, as somebody who like does skateboarding shit like pretty much full time, like I fully get that, like, you know, from the fans perspective, like, dude, you fucked it, like it was so fucking sick. But he's like in there dealing with it all the time, and like he's the guy who has to like scrutinize and worry about all of the graphics and like keep everything tied together. So it's like it's not really an excuse for him, but I can at least say that like he has a perspective that is entirely different than like the fans' perspective. Is like they go to work and they don't think about skateboarding and they do their job, then they come home and they sit on the computer and they like, you know, maybe they watch a skate video or two and maybe they go skateboarding, and it's like, you know, 10% of their life. Versus is if that's like fucking 60% of your life, you will get so much more burnt out on it and you will have such a drastically different perspective. So it's like I think that Alex probably let a lot of people down with what happened to 917, and he could have been more on top of it, and maybe there could have been a couple more years that could have come out of the brand. But ultimately what I'm trying to say is I think the way that he probably looked at it and felt about it is so very, very different in a way that most people that, you know, have this vociferous attitude of like, you know, hatred and animosity towards him could probably never understand. Before we wrap this, you and Ben D had a backtail old guy hang.
We did. It was so wonderful. I like for training, I watched your video, and what a nice guy. What a sweet, like, awesome person.
He's infallible.
Yeah, he's the best. I used to get like offended when people would call me the evil Ben, but now I'm just like, no, dude. I mean, no one is as good as Ben, so therefore anyone that compares to Ben is a bad version of Ben.
I saw, I did kind of pick up on that, like sometimes a little bit, or I would be like, does Ted like Ben, or is that like the competing, like, because I only do videos with like two people really. I do them with you and I do them with Ben, and I'm like, is there a little rivalry brewing? And then like I felt like I was like the girlfriend where like there were the two guys that were like fighting over the girl, and then like they go and they like they go fucking bowling together or something, and I'm just like open Instagram and I'm at home, I'm like, wait, my boyfriends are fucking playing or bowling without me right now? I'm so pissed. So I opened that. I was like, I can't believe these bastards hung out and had a good time.
We had a great time.
I feel so betrayed right now.
No, obviously he's super good skater and he's sober, so he had a lot more energy than I did. But
oh my god, yeah, dude. When we went skating, this was in my worst. I was like drinking Red Bulls and shit like almost every day. But we went skating. He was a machine. I had like 5 minutes, and he just was like 35 minutes, just raw energy, just churning it out.
Yeah, it was awesome. I'm a huge. I mean, I don't watch his videos. I don't even. But like, I'm a huge fan of him as a person. Like he rules. We need more Bens and less me.
He's exactly the radiant source of positive energy in real life, if not more so. It's even more, you can absorb even more of it in real life. But yeah, he kind of is also another guy that you see in person, you're like, oh damn, this guy kind of looks like, you know, he's got a YouTube channel. Like he kind of looks like a dude that's popping. Yeah,
well, he's popping for a reason.
Yeah. All right, well, this is our list. What do you think?
I'm into this list. I can't wait to see what it looks like the next time we do this list, because things are going to move around again, huh?
Yeah, I might screenshot this and reorder it. But yeah, I think a couple of things got confused or mixed around. I can check the screenshot of the last video and fix any discrepancies. But yeah.
Yeah, and also just to everyone, instead of making my life hell in the comments, please just tell us who else you want us to talk about.
Yeah. Yeah, because we will. There's more people. We can put Frankie on here. We didn't do Frankie or Spanky.
Oh yeah, Frankie and Spanky next to Nick Merlino and.
All right, thank you guys for watching.
Thank you,
Ted, for being on here and providing us with your doctoral insights.
You know it.
And we'll see you guys next time. Bye.